Welcome back to Grid Drop. Today, we're going to help you get faster around one of Formula One's best tracks, Canada. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave any feedback or questions in the comments section, or my Discord, which is linked in the description. That being said, let's get right into it. This video will be broken down into 5 sections. Car setup, Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, and finally, a full lap. These sections are all equally important, so stay tuned to the end of the video if you really want to improve. So here's the setup I run at Canada. Feel free to pause the video and screenshot this if you want to try out the setup on your own. This setup prioritizes front-end responsiveness while ensuring rear stability when exiting corners. As a disclaimer, this setup is a general baseline for you to start with and applies to both hot laps and a race. I recommend doing a few laps with this setup and tweaking it to fit your own style. Into the first corner, stick to the right side of the track. Watch for the 100-meter board on the right. You want a very hard jam of the brakes once you reach this sign. It can be a little hard to see, so sometimes I just like to brake right at the midpoint of this concrete patch on the right. It's roughly the same point as the meter board. Under braking now, keep your eyes on the apex of the corner, and you want to be turning in before this little walkway area on the right. Here, it's important to cut as much of this inside curb as you can, so aim to be very aggressive with your line. Once on the inside curb now, give it a little bit of gas and try to keep pulling the car to the left for just a second longer than you think you should. This sweeping right requires a good entry, so you want to make the turn in as wide as possible. Just before the front of the car is parallel to this inside curb, start braking. This isn't a huge application of the brakes, just a quick tap to about 35% should do. As soon as you brake, use the weight shift to dig those front wheels in and turn into the corner, trying to touch this inside curb. The line through here is to touch the beginning of the curb and widen out on exit, so that's what you do. Start slowly increasing throttle and let the car naturally widen out to the left side of the track. As you open up your steering, increase the throttle more. It's very easy to spin here, so make sure your throttle increase and steering are smooth, consistent, and working in unison. Getting back to full throttle now, you should be all the way to the left side of the track. Stick to the left now and prepare for the next corner. Watch for the meter boards on the left. You want to brake right between the 100 and the 50 meter boards, so at about 75 meters. This corner is very touchy. Braking too much will lose you a ton of time, and braking too little will result in you going over track limits on the left. I like to brake at around 50% brake pressure and downshift once or twice, immediately turning into the corner at the same time. You need to be very aggressive with the turn in here, as taking the inside curb is an absolute must. If you go wide on this right-hander, the following left-hander will be a mess. Trust the car and rip it into the corner, again taking as much inside curb as possible. It is easy to go over track limits here, but generally these two corners are somewhat forgiving in that respect. Once on the inside curb, you should be back on the gas. Transition your steering to the left right away and aim for this inside curb on the left now. A slight lift is helpful here, but not fully off the throttle. I'm at about 60% throttle at the apex here. As you follow through the corner, the car will naturally sway to the right, so get back on the power as it does. It can be a little close for comfort near this wall here, so make sure to keep the car stable. Now, as the track twists, pull to the inside curb on the left, and then close to the wall on the right. So that's a look at Sector 1, now let's see it at full speed. As the next corner approaches, watch for the 100 meter board on the right. You want to brake about a car length beyond this point, so right where the rear wheels pass the board. This is a very heavy braking zone, and again, going wide at the first corner makes the second one a mess. That's a pretty common theme throughout this track. Under braking, start turning in just after the 50 meter board on the right. This is a bit less aggressive of an initial turn in, but once you approach the curb, you want to keep the wheel steady and kind of force yourself onto this curb. This curb is raised, so it can feel a little bit sketchy, but mounting the curb won't be an issue. Again, it's important that you're on the curb or at least extremely tight to the corner here. A good rule of thumb is to aim to mount the curb right where it changes from blue to red. If this gives you any issues, raise the ride height a little bit on your setup. Anyway, coming off the curb now, start slowly increasing the throttle and aim to cut tight to this next curb on the right. I like to avoid touching this one as it's also raised and it's a bit easier to make you lose stability. It's also easy to spin here, so similar to the beginning of the lap, make sure your steering angle and throttle work in unison. Widening out to the left now, increase to full power and enable DRS. On this straight, stick to the middle of the track and pull back to the left before the next corner. The braking point is pretty easy here. Once you're under the sign overhead, brake. This is a very hard jam of the brakes since, again, the line through this first corner is very important. Here, you really need to attack this inside curb. It's very easy to understeer off the racing line since this is such a high-speed corner, so turn in much earlier than you think you should. I start turning in right at the 50-meter board, which from a still frame looks incredibly early. However, this is a very good point to attack the curb. This curb is raised in the middle, so it's a little bit bumpy, however, it's mostly safe. On the curb now, start getting back on the gas and transition your steering to the left. If you took this last corner properly, your car should naturally be pretty well aligned with this left-hander. Here, take some of the inside curb and continue increasing the power. Off the curb, your car will sway to the right, so fly down this small straight into the hairpin. That's a run-through of Sector 2, now let's see it at full speed. Sector 3 is only a few corners. Stick to the left side of the track and watch for the 100-meter board on the left. A good indicator that you're about to reach this point is to look at the concrete patch on the left. The 100-meter board approaches shortly after you pass this. This corner is pretty standard. Heavy braking now, shifting down to first or second gear, and smoothly rotating into the corner on the apex. There are a few different lines you can take through here, but it just depends on your style of driving. At the apex, start getting back on the throttle and widen out to the left side of the track. It's pretty narrow, so make sure you aren't increasing the throttle too much. Now, close to this left side wall, increase the throttle and fly down the straight. DRS comes pretty quickly here, so enable it at the line and keep towards the left side of the track as we approach the final two corners. On the left now, watch for the 100-meter board. You want to brake pretty much exactly at this point, maybe just a hair later. Under braking, shift down to around 4th gear and keep your eyes on the first inside apex. This curb is pretty much flat, so you want to take as much curb as you can without going over track limits. Similar to those two last corners of Sector 2, you really want to attack the curb here. Once on the curb, get back on the gas and immediately transition your steering to the left, trying to keep it tight to the inside curb. This one is a bit raised, so I try to keep it simple and just stick to the red and white curb. On exit, put the power down and naturally extend to the right side of the track, careful not to hit the wall. This corner is a very high-speed exchange with a few moving pieces, but with the stability of the cars in this game, it isn't too bad. If you struggle, just practice. The most important thing is to nail the turn-in point. Now, enable DRS and head towards the finish line. So that's a look at Sector 3, now let's see it at full speed. Now let's take a look at a full lap. So there you have it, a full lap of Canada broken down corner by corner and sector by sector. If you want to see more track guides on F124, have any questions, or need more tips, feel free to leave a comment on this video or in my Discord. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.